So in any administration, it's often hard to know who's got the juice, who's powerful, who's got influence,
Hmm.
in part because most people don't talk much about it. It's a hard thing to measure, and a lot of officials exaggerate their influence for obvious reasons. One thing we know about this administration, Stephen Miller is very
Oh, yeah.
influential. He used to work for the senator from Alabama, Jeff Sessions, who endorsed Donald Trump early. He early on left Senator Sessions' office to work for the Trump campaign and then administration, and has been by Donald Trump's side ever since, and is extremely loyal and is smoothed out some of his rougher edges. He's learned to play nicely better with others, and his influence in this administration cannot be overstated. He is extremely influential, not just on traditional domestic policy. He's a deputy chief of staff for policy, but he gets involved in some international stuff too, particularly immigration, which has been his signature issue for a while. So he also appears on TV quite a bit. Here at number three, this is Stephen Miller on Fox today talking about the Department of Education.
Department of Education here in Washington, D.C. is overwhelmingly staffed by radical left Marxist bureaucrats who are in every way hostile to Western civilization, hostile to American interests, and hostile to our founding documents and culture. And so they are using their position and influence inside the Department of Education to try to force agendas like radical gender ideology, like critical race theory, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all kinds of anti-America curricula and policies on the American people, on our students, on our children. So it's taking away from parents the ability to control and direct the education of their own kids, of their own families. So what we're going to do under President Trump's leadership and direction is to return that authority to the greatest extent possible to the local level where parents can control outcomes, while at the same time making sure that no federal funds are used to support racism, to support gender ideology, or to support other ideas and principles that are offensive to the American taxpayer.
So, Mark, I like that guy. Just personally, I find him to be compelling and entertaining. I wish
Well,
he were
at least he's
little less.
subtle, right? Very
Yes,
subtle, very
I
subtle, very
wish,
measured, right?
I wish he were less intense. Um, I've cited this probably three straight episodes, but it's so many things Pat Buchanan said as a
Yep.
presidential candidate stayed with me. And Pat used to say about the people who were in the Department of Education, they were a bunch of hippies in sandals and beads, and it has so much resonance because that's how I think a lot of that idea that the people who populate that building are just leftists is very resonant, at least in MAGA. So, Mark, just tell people what kind of guy is Stephen? Am I overstating his influence? What's his role in the administration?
You're not. I mean, I shouldn't brag too much, but I think we at Axios were the first ones to write about his outsized influence in this
Yeah.
administration, almost like on week one. The phrase that was used to us to describe him was Trump's Swiss Army knife, is that he has a vast array of skills that he can draw on. Now, there are a number of people who don't like the way he is on TV, but for Trump and for MAGA, perfect. He is pretty much, if not pretty much, just absolutely a savant when it comes to immigration policy. And that's really what makes MAGA and Donald Trump's heart go pitter patter. The New York Times did do a fantastic story about him with an anecdote I wish I had, where it described how Mark Zuckerberg went down to Mar-a-Lago and is meeting on the patio at Mar-a-Lago with Stephen Miller, and how the dynamics were as such, where Mark Zuckerberg was essentially in more of the beta position and Stephen Miller was sort of the all-powerful minister, which just speaks volumes about his influence and power. His office is right next to Donald Trump's, though he's a deputy chief of staff Susie Wiles uh, gives him, accepts, or lives with Miller having a tremendous amount of influence and a wide berth. And so far, the relationship between those two is working, and the relationship generally in the White House is working. Unfortunately, it's a stereotype, but stereotypes sometimes are based just in truth, and they're true. It's a lot like a football team in the Trump White House, where everyone has these different positions, and they play them, and they're pretty much experts at them, at least so far. And Stephen Miller's is that sort of utility running back and receiver also good at pass blocking. He does it all for Trump, and Trump loves it.
Ryan, do you know the guy?
I don't know Stephen personally. I've had a lot of people who have been in his orbit. He is definitely at the apex of his political power. There's a lot of people who are Stephen acolytes in very high positions throughout the administration. Um, I will say that Stephen is, if nothing else, a survivor. There have been many times during the first administration where Stephen jumped loyalties pretty quickly when he saw one ship sinking, another one rising. And I mean, it's just the truth, Mark. I mean, he did.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I
when
wasn't saying no. I was saying, oh,
Oh, no, it's true. I mean, when Bannon was going down, Stephen was with Ivanka. When what's his face? When the AG was going down, I mean, he was the one who attacked him publicly. He's a survivor, and he's made him no survivor. And his wife, now working for Elon and Doge, has definitely given them a power couple status. I will say Stephen really does love to see himself on television. So there are times that he's in an adversarial interview. He's very, very good. Like on the CNN interview from a couple of days ago, he was magnificent, and he really was. On immigration, his leash has been lengthened without Jared Kushner there to do more. Um, but he wants people to know he's getting the credit
Yeah.
from everything. He absolutely wants the credit for everything that happens that he does. And he has had a very he hasn't done this in this administration yet, but the last administration he fired a number of people very good in immigration for I don't know what reasons, but he wanted to be the only man standing, and he was. Um,
hmm.
and you know that's what to say about him. I mean, on the education stuff, a lot of what he said wasn't true whatsoever, but that's he was just feeding meat to the base on what they think is true.